The General Assembly Handbook by Anna von Reitz. Section 9. Grand Theories and Responses Debunked. There are many people out there milling around. Most of them are well-intentioned, and some think they have the answer. Some are disinformation agents, as described in Section 7, Discipline. I started life as a mathematician, and for me, the numbers have to add up and the logic has to follow through, and each quantity has to, at least eventually, be known. The simple facts are these. 1. Our actual government, which we are owed, is not fully operational. 2. It is not functioning as it should because it was never fully restored after the Civil War. 3. We have not restored it because we were not informed that it needed to be restored. Certain parties profited themselves by keeping that obscured. 4. Now that we have a grasp of the actual situation, we have the means to restore the government we are owed in our hands, and all we need to do is do it. Nobody can complain about us taking care of our own business, and there are a great many people worldwide who will feel relieved and reassured that the people of this country finally woke up and are taking control again. Thomas Deegan and those trying to organize the Oregon State Assembly have gone off the trolley and are advocating a tear it down to the ground and start over idea, an insurrectionist anarchist answer. At the same time, they are trying to present themselves as the Oregon State Assembly. Think about this. How can you pretend to be a member of a state that you are bent on destroying? Do the words, shoot yourself in the foot, come to mind? They should. Thomas Deegan spent 2 years in jail for trespassing against the territorial state of West Virginia. He's lucky he didn't get 38 years like Bruce Tichett in Colorado, who basically did the same thing. All of them against my advice. Thomas's theories have been tested repeatedly, and they have always had the same result. The patriots espousing these ideas go to jail, and the government putting them in jail is not one bit affected or changed for the better. So, use your common sense. If you want to change the way things are run around here, you have to do the work of self-governance and assemble your state general assemblies. Act in your unincorporated capacity, take care of business, and tell your employees what you want them to do. In a similar vein, there are all sorts of petitions, arbitrations, and other actions being pursued by well-meaning people and groups who are attempting to, quote, move, unquote, Congress and or use principles of law to ensure their immunity. The Territorial Congress already agreed that you are immune by passing the Foreign Sovereign Immunity Act in 1976. And the Municipal Congress has nothing to say about your immunity because you are already the, quote, authorized person, unquote, associated with all your accounts. Again, think about this. When you petition a foreign court or a foreign government, you are handing your authority over to them and subjecting yourself to their jurisdiction. If you're acting as an American, why would you petition the British monarch about issues that you yourself are supposed to control? We don't petition their government, which is merely under contract to provide services to our own. We operate our own government and tell them how we want the service they provide to be run. Do you petition your groundskeeper to mow your lawn, or do you tell him how to mow it? Get your head screwed on, organize your state general assembly, and tell your territorial employees what you want done and how you want it done. Then restore your federal state of state and use it to direct the course of your state's international business affairs, as the Founding Fathers intended, instead of abdicating that responsibility and letting the British monarch and their territorial officers act for you. Arbitration in these matters is bound to more or less fail, because the first default is on our side, not the side of either the territorial or municipal governments. We haven't done our part. We haven't assembled our state general assemblies in 150 years. We haven't reconstructed our federal states of states. They, the territorial and municipal governments, have been left without instructions, hence the claim of a perpetual, quote, state of emergency, unquote. We have to get busy and give them instructions, or the, quote, state of emergency, unquote, continues. As an additional point on their side of the issue, we already have remedy. There is nothing stopping us from assembling our state general assemblies, restoring the federal states of states, and going forward. Nothing but our own ignorance about our own government, and sloth, of course. On an individual basis, there is nothing stopping us from moving our names and accounts back to the land and soil jurisdiction of the states either. Doing so instantly provides immunity from further presumption against us by either the territorial or municipal governments. As irritating as it may be in view of the abuses that have gone on, we have always had remedy in our hands and under our control. This does not mean that we have not been defrauded and suffered breach of trust and been victims of many other crimes, because we have. But we must exercise our remedies first before addressing all of that. Which means, record your decision as the rightful, quote, authorized person, unquote, to leave territorial and municipal jurisdiction and to return your good name and estate back to the land and soil jurisdiction of your state. Sign the, quote, act of expatriation, unquote, from these presumed foreign political statuses, reconvey your trade name back to permanent domicile on the land and soil of your state, then move all the derivative names, all caps, back to permanent domicile on the land and soil of your state too. This process is like reflagging a ship and moves your, quote, vessels, unquote, back to America and back under, quote, American common law, unquote. Instant immunity, no questions asked. This is necessary because your mother was deceived and coerced and mistakenly identified you as a British territorial citizen when you were a baby. This is the fact. Now, as an adult, you have been told about this circumstance. It is your responsibility to correct the records and declare yourself an American. If, as is to be supposed in most cases, you would rather enjoy your assets and freedom and benefit from the guarantees provided by all the treaties and constitutional agreements, then can be counted as a pauper and treated as a debt slave of a British territorial corporation. The same is true of the state general assemblies. The states own and are supposed to control all of the federal state organizations for their benefit. But as we didn't step forward and reorganize and, quote, reconstruct, unquote, the federal states of states after the Civil War, what part and function of our actual government ran amok? That part ran amok. Neither the territorial nor the municipal governments are supposed to be running, quote, state of state, unquote, organizations at all. There is nothing stopping us from finishing the reconstruction of our federal states of states, taking them out of mothballs and returning them to full operation. Nothing but our own ignorance, again. So, no petitions to members of territorial or municipal Congress are appropriate. It would be appropriate if we had an actual federal continental Congress present to address, but we do not at this time. And no arbitration of these matters is advised because the default is on our side of the line. Any knowledgeable arbitration expert is going to look at this and say, well, this appears to be a situation in which you were identified as a British territorial United States citizen as a baby, and you have voluntarily remained in that status ever since. So what are you complaining about? Unquote. You can be anywhere you want to be. You can live in Scotland or you can live in France. You can live on the sea or in a houseboat on the Mississippi, or you can choose to live on land. FDR arbitrarily declared that all Americans were to be, quote, presumed, unquote, to be out to sea on holiday, acting in capacity of British territorial United States citizens, and donating all their assets as chattel backing the debts of the local territorial state of state franchise of the bankrupt Roman Catholic Church nonprofit corporation known as United States of America, Inc. It's up to you to declare it bunco and make your other choices known. If you don't want to live on a wrecked boat drifting about in the middle of the ocean, by all means, forget the Roman holiday and come back home. Ditto the, quote, offer, unquote, of British territorial citizenship. It is also up to you to operate your own government and to do so according to the rules of your ancestors established until this entire country is awake and organized and educated enough to make other choices. Finally, this is confusion about what, quote, states we are talking about. Some people have erroneously identified the municipal state, all caps, as one and the same as the all caps people without realizing that neither have anything to do with us. The municipal United States government runs on the basis of accounts, as in bank accounts. All the various upper all caps names you see are bank accounts belonging to either incorporated or unincorporated entities. For example, all caps James Allen Johnson is a municipal all caps estate trust bank account belonging to the British territorial United States citizen, quote, upper and lower, James Allen Johnson, unquote, a franchise of the British territorial state of Ohio. Or, depending on your choice of political status, it can also be interpreted as an all uppercase estate bank account belonging to the American tradesman, quote, James Allen Johnson, upper and lowercase. Quote, James A. Johnson, all caps, is a municipal, all caps, public transmitting utility bank account that belongs to British territorial United States citizen, quote, James A. Johnson, that's upper and lowercase, unquote. Or, depending on your choice of political status, it can be interpreted as an all caps account belonging to the American, quote, James A. Johnson, unquote, upper and lowercase. These all caps accounts are all, quote, under your name, unquote, and you're supposed to know how to operate them. But the trustees and perpetrators of this whole identity theft and credit fraud scheme neglected to tell you a word about it, much less how to operate these all caps accounts. Nonetheless, bank accounts are what they are, and obviously a bank account cannot actually own land, and people, all caps people, cannot actually represent all lowercase people, comma, either. So, quote, all caps people owns all caps state owns all caps land means account number 1092799-1 owns account 51-456-902-001 owns account 5775779-1898503, unquote. And there's absolutely no indication in any of that about who owns all caps people, or at least pretends to. All caps people being an account still. These are issues that Donald Trump needs to sort out. The rest of us have our own hash to settle, beginning with declaring our political status as American state nationals and explicitly moving our name and our accounts, all caps accounts, back home to the land and soil jurisdiction of our state, and following up with joining our state general assemblies. Posted Monday, January 21st, 2019.